Do you have pain during push-ups or bench press? Well, we're often too quick the rotator cuff for pain on the anterior side or the front side of the shoulder during bench press and push-ups, but oftentimes it might also be because you're limited in shoulder extension. In this video, I'm going to show you how to test your shoulder extension and also how to improve your shoulder extension and your internal rotation so you can improve your mobility for bench pressing. So first off, for the test, what we're going to do is we're going to need a stick. We're going to grab the stick with our palms facing back. So our hands are facing forward, our palms are facing back. We're going to try to sit down on our heels. If that isn't possible, then that's not a problem. You can also do this test standing. It's just easier because there's less ways to compensate. And then what you're going to try to do from this position, without tipping the shoulders forward and without bending the elbow or the wrist, we're going to try to bring the stick as far back as we can until we feel like we're fully restricted or we start feeling a lot of muscle tension and we can't go any further. Without tipping the shoulders forward. So try to keep a stable position and then go back down slowly. You could retest this once, 1 to 3 times the first time you're trying this, just to see, because you're getting used to this position as well. So you can do it again. Keep the arms fully extended. Try to not bend the wrist. Try to not tip over with your chest. Try to bring it as far back as you can. And then we're going to count this as the current end range, and then we can go back. So for the first exercise, there's 2 main ranges of motion we want to look at when it comes down to shoulder extension, when it comes down to bench pressing. One is shoulder extension, so the ability to bring our arm behind our body, and 2 is internal rotation, which is also very necessary whenever we're lowering down into our bench press position. So to improve the internal rotation of our shoulder, we're going to get into a side-lying position. We're going to get into the sleeper stretch. So we're going to lay down into a side-lying position. You can bring your top leg forward, extend your bottom leg fully, so you're in a stable position. And then you can lean onto your right shoulder, put your elbow in front of your shoulder, bend your elbow to 90 degrees. And then from there, we're going to use our opposite hand to push ourselves down into a slight shoulder stretch. So we're trying to look for a stretch on the back side of our shoulder here. If you feel this on the front side of your shoulder, you might want to experiment around a bit with the position you're laying in. You might want to have your shoulder down a bit more. You might want to have your shoulder up a bit more. You might want to be looking for a position that you start feeling the back side of your shoulder rather than the front side of your shoulder. So when we found a stretch here, we're going to be holding that stretch for about 90 seconds. And after that, we're going to make this stretch more active. We're going to add an active component to it, so we don't only get more flexible, we also get stronger in the position to improve our overall mobility and control in this movement. So we're going to imagine that 90 seconds have passed. What we're going to do after those 90 seconds is he's going to try to drive his hand back that way, but he's going to hold the position down with his other hand. So he's trying to drive this way, but he's holding himself into position with this hand. So at this time, his stretch is going to be fading and he's going to be getting tension inside of the shoulder girdle instead. So for the first 15 seconds, you're going to be using 20 to 30% intensity. So just lightly trying to open up. And then now we're about halfway. He can ramp it up a bit towards 40-50%. So he's still trying to open up to the opposite direction, but he's not allowing himself to open up. He's holding it with his other arm. Another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And then he can keep his top hand in the same position, and he's going to try to bring his bottom hand more towards the floor. So he's trying to twist his upper arm towards the floor, and he's trying to put less pressure onto the top arm. So he's no longer using the assistance of the top arm. He's just trying to pull himself actively into this position. And he's just not using his top hand anymore. He's trying to actively pull himself down instead. So rather than using the hand to get a passive stretch, he's now actively pulling himself into the stretch. Also going to hold it for 30 seconds. We're about halfway now. So he started at 20-30% intensity. Now we can ramp it up a bit and try to go down a bit more. So we're still trying to twist the bicep towards the floor. We're not necessarily trying to bend the elbow or use the wrist. We're just trying to twist the bicep towards the floor as much as we can. And then once this is ended, we're going to bring the top hand towards the palm and we're going to keep ourselves into that. So he's going to now just hold himself into that position without actively still pulling down. So now he's just using his left hand in order to hold his right palm towards the floor, but he's no longer actively engaging any muscles. And then you're going to hold this 30 seconds to end off with the exercise. And then for the second exercise, we're going to be working specifically onto shoulder extension. So what we're going to do is similarly to the first test we did, we're going to lay down facing the floor with our forehead onto our right forearm and with our left arm, in this case, towards the side. Again, left palm of the hand is facing away. So it's, in this case, it's facing towards the ceiling. And what we're going to do first is we're going to actively pull ourselves up. We're going to keep our left shoulder onto the floor and we're going to try to pull up and see how high we can go without any sort of assistance. And then from there, we're going to want to put something underneath the hand in order to support it. And that is going to be our positions we're going to be starting off with. So for the second exercise, we're going to be working on to shoulder extension. We just worked on internal rotation of the shoulder. Now we're going to focus on extension of the shoulder, which might be one of the reasons why you're getting pain on the front side of your shoulder during bench presses or during stuff like push-ups. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into a flat lying position with our stomach facing the floor like so. You can put your right forearm under your forehead for support. And then we're just going to elevate the hand into a position that we can just barely lift our hand up by keeping our left shoulder into the floor. So when we're going to be doing this exercise, we want to make sure that the left shoulder keeps contact with the floor and you don't start actively pulling open while you're doing the exercise. So here, we're not going to go for a passive stretch this time like we did in the last exercise. And this one, I'm going to go straight into the active component. So what he's going to do here is he's going to try to pull his wrist towards the floor first. So he's going to try to get himself out of the position, but he can't because there's a block in the way. You could use anything, a block, a book, anything you can put under your wrist here. And the higher you're going to put it, the more difficult the exercise is going to be. So he can try to pull his hand into the block. He started off at about 20-30% intensity. When we're going to hit the halfway mark here, we can ramp up the intensity slightly. So now he can ramp up the intensity a bit more. So he's pulling into the floor, into the block slightly harder. He's starting to feel engagement in the shoulder because of that. And he's just isometrically, so holding the same position. There's no movement happening. It looks like nothing's going on, but he's intentionally trying to drive his hand through the floor so he can feel his muscles engage and he can tell his nervous system that this position is safe. And now that the 30 seconds have passed, he's going to keep contact with the left shoulder onto the floor and he's going to try to lift his wrist off of the block. So he's actively engaging the back side of the shoulder now. He's not trying to open up the left chest. All he's trying to do is lift the arm behind the body. So he's now creating tension on the back side of the shoulder, possibly his tricep, maybe a little bit of his traps. He's just trying to keep the arm as far away from the block as he possibly can. He's also starting about 20-30% intensity here. If you can't lift it off the block, that's not a problem. Then you just try to imagine that the block is a digital scale and you don't want to put as little weight onto the digital scale as you possibly can. So now he can ramp up the intensity slightly. He's going to try to go even higher. He's going to hold the position without compensating. We're going to hold this for another 10 seconds. So he's actively engaging the back side of the shoulder. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then he can slowly relax back down. So this is for shoulder extension. After you've done both of these exercises, you can go back to the first assessment if you want and retest to see if you've got any improvements there or if it feels more comfortable. If you're still experiencing some kind of shoulder pain after this, that might be completely normal. If you got an injury because of overuse, then that is not just simply going to go away by doing one simple exercise. That means that you might have to lower the weight you're using or limit the range of motion you're using for a little while. So what you can also do is, for instance, let's say you have pain in the bottom of a push-up position, is you could limit your push-up position. You could limit the depth of your push-up temporarily just to alleviate some of the shoulder pain, but still be able to build some strength into that position. And then once your pain starts going away, you can then start gradually lowering your chest more and more towards the floor again. Same thing with the bench press. you could put something onto your chest as a reference point, and you could simply lower the bar to that point, assuming you don't have pain at that point, and then gradually start lowering the bar more and more again as your shoulder extension mobility and internal rotation mobility improves, and as your pain symptoms or inflammation that you might be having, or any kind of pain that you're having on the front of shoulder is going to be slowly fading away. If you like this type of content and you're trying to find more content to improve your shoulder strength and mobility, or you're trying to improve mobility in other aspects of your body, feel free to check out the YouTube channel and also stick around for any future videos.